See, the repeated reviews of students that we always get from SCM examination, from those who have appeared examination is, see, even if paper is easy, you may not be able to score. Scoring may be difficult. Why? Because to score you need to write. And when you are studying, you're not doing writing practice. You have to do writing practice of some of the case study questions and see where you are lacking, see where you can improve. When I will do some with writing, but not all. And I'm not asking you to do all writing practice, but at least some you need to do by yourself. The questions maybe today that I will study with you, you will understand what is the context, you will understand with me how to write. But whether you will be actually able to write or not, that will be confirmed only when after today's session you will attempt to write these questions by yourself. Once you have written 3-4 answers, you will get more confidence. Without writing, you will never get confidence. So what we have been doing until now is mostly understanding the case studies, but we have not done any kind of writing work for case study. So you need to do the writing work also. Without that, it will be tough for you to score. Okay, let's start with our first question. Shandar Bangle Limited have been recognized as a manufacturer and exporter of high quality bangles. Now, in exam, how do we read question is, first of all, we always read the first paragraph. Designed and manufactured using optimum quality raw materials sourced from trustworthy vendors of the market. If by reading the first paragraph you are able to recall what is this question about, then good. Next, instead of reading the full question, you will read the required part. Required part is management desires to adopt environmental management accounting as a part of strategic decision making process. So this actually helps you to know, okay, exam question is from this chapter. Now you will read the part 1 to 3, explain the requirement to have environmental management accounting and identify environmental prevention, appraisal and failure cost, analyze the appropriateness of SBL incorporating the following in implementing environmental management accounting, which is these 3 methods. Then need of non-financial consideration in decision making. This is actually from decision making chapter, but this has been asked here. So I will just guide you how to write about this. Okay. So you need to know from required now whether it is your cup of tea or not, whether this question is doable from you or not, whether you remember these points, whether you remember about this or not, whether you have done this chapter or not. If yes, then just mark it as okay, it is your cup of tea. So while reading the question, you need to first judge whether it is possible for you to do this question or not. Alright. Once you have decided that yes, I know, then there is no looking back. You have to do now. There is no looking back. You have to do now. Okay, so there is one query here. Sir, while practicing, I try to describe the whole para in 2-3 sentences. Is that enough? Yes, something is better than nothing. But I'll not say this is enough. You should attempt at least maybe one question in every chapter in full-fledged. One question in every chapter should be attempted in full-fledged manner, and rest you can do 2-3 line sort of writing also. But one question you should write full as if it is an exam question. So let's continue reading of this question. Manufacturing process. The process of manufacture of glass bangle is highly skilled labor oriented one comprising of the following main operations: glass melting phase, parison making phase, spiral or coil forming phase. So there are 3 steps to make this glass bangle. In first phase, glass batch materials like sand, soda ash, limestone, feldspar, borax, etc. with other additives and coloring materials in a suitable proportion are mixed manually and fed into the pot places in pot furnace. The raw material is melted in the furnace at a temperature of about 1300 to 1400 degrees centigrade to obtain molten glass. So in first phase they are obtaining glass. In second phase, molten glass is drawn from the pot of the furnace with the help of the iron pipe and formed into gob to gather required quantity of glass for formation into parisons on iron plates. The parisons of different colors are joined together and reheated in an auxiliary furnace to obtain required designs. So here you have learned how to make parisons. Okay. So what are parison? Basically parison are kind of rounded mass of glass. Parison means rounded mass of glass. These are parisons. Whenever in doubt, always look for some answers in Google. So that actually enhances your vocabulary also and your overall knowledge. So parison is something of glass only which is rounded in shape. In third phase, the reheated parison is then transferred to Bellon furnace, from which the glass is further drawn into spiral coil of bangles. So from there they are making the spiral coils. Here just the rounded glass is there. So like say when bangles are being made, first maybe they are making some rounded cylindrical shape something. Now from here they are obtaining the spirals of this. So this is being cut into several spirals. On the spindle counted and rotated manually at uniform rate of reevaluation, synchronizing with the manually at the other end of the furnace. Spiral are then taken out from the spindle and cut with the help of a pencil cutter to separate out the single pieces of bangles from spiral. These cut or unjoined bangles are then sent for joining of end, finishing, cutting and polishing, decoration, etc. The finished products are then neatly packed for sale. Environmental impact. Now until now they were talking about how the glass bangles are made. Alright. So now they are talking about the context of the chapter, environmental impact. But unfortunately these processes have environmental impact at all stages of the process, including emissions of airborne pollution in the form of ashes, gases, noise and vibration. So there is environmental impact at all stages of the process, including emission of airborne pollution in the form of ashes, gases, noise and vibration. Condition of the workplace. Due to limitation of maintaining appropriate temperature for melting and molding of the glass, furnaces are kept burning. Therefore, workers have to work with such working condition continuously without proper leisure time. The above mentioned factors become more harmful while working in immense heat and sound, which is normally higher than the permissible levels. Health impact is a recent study revealed adverse impact of pollution over workers and people who are living in nearby area. So there is an adverse impact of pollution in the nearby area also. Management of the company is worried about environmental impact and health impact and has taken certain initiatives in taking care of environment, like they have taken certain initiatives: batch house cyclonic dust collector, noise absorbing device, natural gas fired furnace, so that burning is less, burning emits less of pollution. Better refractory materials, training for waste minimization, treatment of solid waste, research and development activities aimed at reducing pollution level, planting trees, treatment of nitrogen oxide and other harmful gases. So you see, there are some treatment related measures and there are some equipments that they have bought as an initiative to reduce the environmental impact. So management desires to adopt environmental management accounting as a part of strategic decision making process. Explain the requirement to have environmental management accounting and identify the SBL's environmental prevention, appraisal and failure cost. Okay. See, this question is simple theory question. I could have left this question to be studied by you, but what I have witnessed is, when I leave, it's normally left by you only. So you don't get time to do it simultaneously a lot of time. So what happens when the time before exam comes, these questions become more heavy for you, because doing this question during the exam preparation time, it creates more pressure. Okay, so sometimes we tend to neglect and shift to practical. Practical is calculative, but this is very, very theoretical. So usually I've heard that students, when do with me once, now next time when you do the same question, there is a psychological impact that you will be able to do it. But if you don't do with me and you have not done it before the main exam also, then during the exam preparation you will be afraid to touch that question. So my duty is to remove your fear. So once if you have done, reading it next will not create that much panic. Okay, but if you have not read any question even once, then that will create panic when you will actually prepare for exam. So make sure that each and every questions are duly marked and your keywords are well noted before your actual exam preparation starts. All right. Next. So the question here is, explain the requirement of having environmental management accounting. That is why environmental management accounting is important, and identify SBL's environment prevention, appraisal and failure cost. So first part, when they are asking about requirement to have environmental management accounting, what you will write over here? When you will write about here, what you will write? First that you will write is, what is EMA? Second, what you will write is its focus. Third that you will write is application, and that is only the requirement. Along with this, if you want, you can write about the main reasons or importance of EMA also. Importance were three, if you remember. First was significant cost, second was people becoming aware, carbon footprint awareness is there, and third is, you remember 3 points, regulation, right? So here first we can write about what is EMA, then focus, then application. Now while writing you have to refer SBL. Now how will it be done, that I will show you, but first you need to know what to write. Next, prevention, appraisal and failure cost. So these are actually the initiatives that management has already taken. So from here only you need to identify prevention, appraisal and failure cost. So prevention cost, if you remember, are those that are incurred so that in future there is less pollution. So whatever pollution control equipment or training or research measures that you undertake all come under the category of prevention cost. So first is batch house cyclonic dust collector. Batch house cyclonic dust collector. So here batch house cyclonic dust collector is what? Batch house cyclonic dust collector is a prevention cost. So you have installed a machine that will prevent pollution in future. Noise absorbing device is prevention. Natural gas fired furnace is prevention, so that there will be less pollution in future. Better refractory materials is prevention. Training is prevention. So prevention is what? Something what you do to minimize the future pollution. Then treatment of solid waste. Treatment of solid waste is research and development activities. This treatment of solid waste is not prevention. Okay. See, here what you're doing, waste has been obtained and now you're treating that. So this is internal failure cost. Internal failure cost. Okay, here they are asking just to write about failure cost. You know that this is of two parts, internal and external. So here it is just the internal failure cost. Internal failure is when something wrong you have obtained, that means some waste you have done already, now you are incurring cost to correct it. That is internal failure. Correcting the failures happened internally. Then research and development activities aimed at reducing pollution level is prevention. Planting trees is prevention. Okay, treatment of nitrogen oxide is internal failure. Now if you see, all the initiatives that have been taken are either prevention or internal failure. They are asking to talk about what are appraisal. So there is no appraisal as of now given here. So what institute expects from you, you will see some realities of institute expectation from this question, that you should write something of your own. What can be the appraisal cost? You cannot write appraisal is not given here. So you have to write what is appraisal cost. Appraisal cost is the cost of incurred to measure the quantum of pollution. So any kind of testing equipment cost will come under the purview of appraisal cost. So that you have to write by your own by giving some example. Okay, so prevention I have marked, failure cost I have marked, appraisal you have to write by own. Give own examples, give example by own. So if it is not given, that doesn't mean that you will not write, because question is about identify normally. So identify implies that you need to just pick up from the given, but factually since it's not given, you cannot leave it blank. You have to create an example by your own. So when you're writing, see, everything is here if you see identify. So identify actually means you need not explain, but still a small brief explanation is justified. Like if you're writing about environmental prevention cost, then you can write one line. Is it all right? Is the class going all right? So then you can write one line about what is prevention costs. So prevention costs are those costs that are incurred to minimize or reduce the future prevention. Are those costs which are incurred to minimize the future prevention, future pollution, that are incurred to minimize or reduce future pollution. Okay, pollution or waste, you can write it anyway, future pollution or future waste. Appraisal costs are the costs that we incur in order to measure the quantum of environmental impact. Better terminology is environmental impact. Failure costs are the costs that are incurred either internally or externally to correct the environmental impact, to take corrective measures for the impact already done. So those are failure costs. Failure cost means you have failed and now you are incurring cost to correct it. You have failed means you have created some adverse impact on the environment and now you are correcting it. So give example by own. For appraisal and for failure cost, you write one line and then you give example with its reference. Okay. So planting trees, if you remember, we can also put planting trees as a cost under external failure. It will come in your example of external failure also, if you think that way, because this is a cost that you are incurring externally in the organization. Planting trees can also be categorized as your external failure cost. However, in this solution they are considering it into prevention, so I am writing prevention, but otherwise you can also take it under external failure cost. Okay, so let's get into further next discussion. They're asking, analyze the appropriateness of SBL incorporating the following in implementing environmental management accounting. Now, what are these three? These three are methods to identify and allocate the environmental cost. So now you have to describe how activity-based costing works, how life cycle costing works, how input-output analysis works. So just describe about these methods. Okay, describe as in, first you will write about activity-based costing. So by using this technique, SBL can, instead of writing straightforward, the language can be, by using this technique, SBL will be able to identify the environmental costs which are hidden in general overheads in the form of different activities, and then identify its cost drivers that controls or affects the environmental activities, which will in turn help to allocate the environmental cost appropriately to products and services. And this will also help us to think over the savings that we can generate from those activities. Alright, I'm again repeating, by using activity based costing, SBL can identify its environmental related cost which are hidden in general overhead and the cost drivers that affects those environmental cost. Through this method, SBL will be able to attribute its environmental cost accurately to its products and services. At the same time, it can also find opportunities that will lead to cost savings in future. What next is life cycle costing. So for life cycle costing, how will we write? Under this method, the product cost is identified over the life cycle instead of annual. Here, cost incurred before introduction into the market, example R&D cost. Cost incurred during the process of manufacturing, during the life cycle of the product, example emissions or emissions treatment cost, and the cost incurred after the decline or withdrawal of the product from the market, example rehabilitation cost, will all be identified and traced to the product cost. Input output analysis is, by using this SBL, will be able to identify how much of input is getting finally converted into output. Any difference in the quantity of input or output shall be considered as waste, which is supposed to have environmental impact. So you have to explain this way. Now you see, you cannot think of anything if you have not studied the theoretical stuffs first. So first idea is you have to study theoreticals. Then second idea is you have to actually understand how we can use these theoreticals to write into the answer. Alright, so description done. Third is explain the need of non-financial consideration in decision making. Non-financial consideration are what? Now just let me explain about decision making. Whenever we make any decision, usually you have seen that we calculate profit. If any extra profit is there due to any decision, we say yes. So this we call as financial approach of decision making, where we just check the profitability. Profitability is always a short term approach, because whenever you want to earn profit, it satisfies your shareholders, but it never satisfies, it never creates satisfaction among your employees, or customers or other society at large. So they always feel dissatisfied because you are earning profit. Interesting, right? Everybody knows that we are having finance motive, but when we start pursuing finance motive, all other stakeholders start getting dissatisfied. So a long-term sustainability of company can only come if you keep all your stakeholders happy. So what we are saying that whenever you make any decision, you should also consider satisfaction of employee, customers or society at large, who are also your important stakeholders in the business, who will sooner or later become your customer also, who will give you opportunity to earn, but you should satisfy them. That is also very, very important. If you satisfy them, it is very, very important. That creates a long-term goodwill of the company. So that you will have to write over here. Okay. Another question here is, here I am just writing long-term goodwill is the main reason for considering non-financial factors while making a decision. Example, if you are taking an offer, will it increase the workload of your employee? Will they have to work excess time to complete that order? So this is something that you are thinking about your employees, not just about your own profits. Next, they are asking another one, suggest safety measures that can be taken into consideration for workers. Now, for this, you see, there has been no mention in the question about safety measures. So they are asking you to think what can be the safety measures which we can plan to implement for these workers who are working in such working conditions. So you got to write some points again by your own. So this can only come into your mind if you prepare your mind like a consultant, as if this company has come to you to take advice from you. Now if you will say no, I have not revised anything, how can I tell you? It's not possible. Say I am your friend, I am running this company and I'm asking you, being a chartered accountant, you should be able to guide me, right? So I want that you should give me some points which actually can help me to start thinking. Maybe I'm not saying that you will have to say the conclusive thing. Of course the answers can vary. You can give multiple options. So suggest means don't just suggest the one, suggest multiple. So first can be the safety measures that we can take is, you can provide them protective clothes, thick clothes which are heat proof, say wearing some gloves or helmets. Okay, they may actually remain more safe. Second can be, you can have safety awareness programs. So your worker should be well versed with what are dangerous activities. Third can be training to workers. Appropriate training also increases safety. Fourth can be, there can be some safety monitoring system. Now this is something new for you. Safety monitoring system does what? It actually analyzes all your process and understands the hazardousness of the process, and then accordingly prepare for different kinds of safety measures that an organization should take. So you should monitor through some system, maybe through some process, through a separate team who will be only looking for safety things and safety standards are well implemented in our companies or not. Okay, all right. So this way you can write some points, and other is, of course, you can write about, general points. Generally what students give is, sir, can we write about good working condition, can we write about less shift time? Yes, those are general. I am giving you more new points which usually you don't think. So fifth, you can also write about hire more workers. So if you are hiring extra workers, the overall safety increases. Why? Because there is never any workload to excessive workload on any specific worker. Alright, so you can have some safety kits, or you can say first aid kits if any kind of injury happens. Alright, so these are some of the steps that you can take. There cannot be any conclusive answer to this, but still these are some of the points. So there's a question here, sir, we have to identify the factors from question itself, isn't it, sir? In general we do so, but case studies are different. Here we are supposed to add something or from our own if case studies are not providing straight away from the question. You have to ensure completeness of your answer rather than just picking up the things from the answer. So that's the learning, that you should give example by your own. So let's check out the presentation here. Part 1 is environmental management accounting, which is about what is EMA. EMA is a process of collection and analysis of information related to environmental cost for internal decision making purpose. EMA focuses on cost estimation of environmental related cost and taking measures to improve environmental performance and ensure sustainability. Something like this. It's not necessary that you have to write exactly in terms of the answer that has been given. It's not, you cannot actually, it's not, and you cannot, it is not possible to mug it up. Second, for application you can pick up any point. Several points were taught to you. So there are some other points also which you can take up from here, which was not there in our notes, like external reporting, like assessment of annual environmental cost. Okay, so there are some extra points also which you can always write. It's not necessary again to write all the points. Next, environmental cost of SBL is prevention cost. What are prevention cost? First you can write about that, but actually if say marks is there less or time is less, you should not elaborate it unnecessarily, because question is not asking you to explain. Question is asking you to identify. Identify generally means pick up from the given. These costs are basically incurred in relation to activities undertaken to prevent the production of waste that could harm the environment. Prevent the production of waste. It prevents. Prevention cost is prevent future waste. Prevention of future waste. So there are several initiatives that you can mention over here, as you could see: noise absorbing device, planting trees, training, research and development. So this marking should be very carefully done, and these notes also to be written very carefully, because this only will minimize your time when you will come back next to it to check what it is. So from question, what are the cost coming into this category? Next, environmental appraisal cost. Environmental appraisal cost are incurred in relation to activities undertaken to determine whether product, processes and other activities within the firm are complying with environmental standards. Whether things are complying with environmental standards or not, compliance is proper or not. So again, what it is, and then there is own example. It's not given in the question. There is an own example, like they may perform contamination test. Okay. Appraisal cost is like testing cost. Testing, or you can say compliance with standards. And then environmental failure cost. Failure costs are of two types usually, external and internal. So they have kept it short. It means costs incurred in relation to activities dealing with pollution arising from the activities of entity. Pollution arising. So we have failed. So we have created the pollution. Now we are correcting it. That is failure cost. So failure cost means cost incurred after actually generating the pollution. So example here is treatment of harmful gases and treatment of solid waste. These are internal failure cost. Cost incurred to correct the waste. So I am writing in very general language so that we can understand easily later on. Alright, now appropriateness of techniques. You see, just the language tone, just don't write that activity based costing is so and so. You should write this costing technique would help SBL. See, the language would help SBL to separate environmental costs from the general overheads. Remember these words ABC, to separate or identify environmental cost from general overheads. To separate environmental cost from general overheads. So that's the main use of activity based costing, and then we can of course identify the cost drivers, identifying appropriate drivers of this environmental cost. And interesting things are examples over here, like activities that they have been doing according to their initiatives: planting of trees, treatment of nitrogen oxide, solid waste removal, research and development. So some drivers we are suggesting right from the activities that we have done. So this is, I think, important to add up here, something new that we got to understand, that from the initiatives that we have taken, we are trying to understand the drivers from those initiatives. So planting of trees cost will be dependent on number of trees planted. Treatment of nitrogen oxide can be volume of nitrogen oxide. Solid waste removal is volume of waste. Research and development is time used in such a way, research and development. So man hours worked for such activities. So this is something important that you can, highlight here as an extra thing that you have done for examination. Next, life cycle costing is about, by using this, SBL would be able to identify, record and control the environmental costs relating to various stages in the life of gas bangles. Okay, cost will be identified in various stages, cost in various stages of life cycles, stages of life cycle of bangles. So it's not that the question is only mentioning various stages of life cycle of product. It's not written in like a general answer, it's written like a specific answer of glass bangles. So use of this is a smart point here. No, you're not writing various stages in the life of a product, so that becomes a direct answer. Case study answer is life of glass bangles. At each of the following stage, now interestingly, something like this was never given in our institute mat. What will be the names of stages? So they have created some new kind of stages. In raw material stage, we have not studied any kind of this kind of stage in product life cycle, but anyhow, let's study this. In raw material stage, some natural product will be purchased. In manufacturing stage, emission and treatment of oxide and other gas and treatment of solid waste. In marketing and distribution stage, environmental costs relating to transportation of glass bangles to various customer. So there is new kind of stage that they have developed, which is raw material procurement stage. So you have to procure quality. Raw material stage means raw material procurement stage. So you have to procure some good quality materials that produces low waste, or you can somehow recycle those materials. Second is manufacturing stage. Manufacturing stage is about emission and treatment of all the oxides and gases. And third is marketing and distribution stage. Marketing and distribution stage, so that's talking about transportation. Now everywhere you see they have just connected glass bangles. They have used the names of those waste that is actually produced within this question, like nitro oxide and other gases. All right. So alternatively, or I'm writing, you can write here, or we can write using, first is introduction stage. So there we have R&D cost. You can have prevention, pollution equipment cost. Then during your growth and maturity stage, what we will have is, during growth and maturity stage is your emissions and its treatment cost. Third, during decline stage, you can have those rehabilitation cost if you are withdrawing the product from the market. All right. Next is input output analysis. I hope you have noted everything here. I am proceeding ahead. Input output analysis. So here SBL can actually see how much of soda ash, all those input name what was given in the question, it can evaluate the input of sand, soda ash, limestone, feldspar, borax, and the resulting volume of output, that is glass bangles. So you see the style of writing, you're not writing just the direct answers. So that's what I am emphasizing, that once or twice you have to write some answers and understand like how much, even after remembering the concepts, you are able to write. Through such evaluation, the SBL would be able to allocate and analyze environmental cost attributable to input and output of glass bangles. Through such evaluation, SBL would be able to allocate. So what is the benefit of this analysis? All these will be helping SBL to allocate and analyze environmental cost attributable to input and output of glass bangles. So that's the advantage of input output analysis. But how input word is written? Input is not just word input here. Input name is given, volume of sand, soda ash. Output is not just output here. Output name is glass bangles. So you should relate your input with output. This is very, very important. Next, part 3, non-financial consideration. What are non-financial consideration? Now listen this. I already shared with you that business are driven by financial motive, which is only for the satisfaction of shareholders. But in order to satisfy other stakeholders, you have to consider some non-financial incentives, which might not be beneficial in short term, but definitely beneficial in long term. So it's basically an outlook of the company, that whether it should focus on short term or long term. So definitely idea is to focus on long term sustainability. So all those people, only other stakeholders only become our customers and other partners or resources for the company. So for the benefit of long term, we must consider non-financial consideration. So all these we have to talk here. You see, I'll show you some key phrases here. Entities generally give emphasis on financial measures such as earning and accounting returns, but little emphasis on drivers of value such as customer and employee satisfaction, innovation and quality. So these are your non-financial factors, due to which mostly companies could not continue in long term. So if you are not focusing on this, you cannot continue in long term. So for the purpose of achieving long term organizational strategies, non-financial consideration should be taken into account. Without this, it may be that company achieve short term goal but would be difficult to achieve long term goal. So it's basically a fight between short term and long term. So I can just help you with a small abbreviated phrase over here. So the fight is between short term and long term. Short term is financial, long term is non-financial. In SBL, it can be clearly seen that there is a great impact on health of workers. So by creating a safe and healthy environment for employees, SBL can improve productivity, business performance, staff morale and employee engagement. Further, this will also reduce accidents, work-related ill health, sick pay cost as well as insurance cost. A healthy workforce can demonstrate corporate responsibility. If SBL look after employees, business is likely to have a positive public image. So here reference of case has been given, reference of SBL has been given, SBL's employee satisfaction has been given, because that is only the concern that has been raised in this case study. So employee satisfaction will improve productivity, business performance, employee engagement, staff morale. It will reduce your sick pay cost, insurance cost. Now another question was also asking to create safe and healthy environment. So what measures we need to undertake to create this safe and healthy environment? What measures we need to undertake? I shared with you some: safety monitoring system, training, recruitment, first aid kit, protective glasses, clothes, gloves, and health checkup camps and awareness programs. So these are something new that you are writing from your own, which was not mentioned in the question. So it's a suggestion coming from you. Okay. See, there is two things. One is, I will say in case studies, one part is analysis. When it is analysis, what you are doing is you are basically going deep into the given situation, going deep into given scenario, okay, and trying to identify different combinations and impact. This is what we say analysis is. So you are into a situation and now you are seeing different pros and cons or combinations of that situation, going deep into given scenario, see its pros and cons and alternatives. But beyond analysis is synthesis, that I understand. There is never any question like synthesize this, but I understand beyond analysis is synthesis. Synthesis is, if you are going deep into the analysis, then there is a synthesis, and that is something like you are extracting a new observation or suggestion out of the given scenario, which was not there in the given scenario. So in some case study questions, you will see that institute is expecting this synthesization from you. It's not that they are only expecting analysis from you, but synthesization is not specifically mentioned. When you read the case study, then you understand, oh my god, this is they want from us as an answer. So yes, so for this, sir, what skills we need to develop? For this, you need to be very open-minded. Now, this cannot develop in a day or so. This cannot develop again just by reading the concept, because you are seeing that when this new things are coming up, it were never in the concepts only. These are scenario based. So how to actually click with all those new synthesis, observation and suggestion? So we say be very present in your present. That means whatever comes around you, try to go deep into it. If there is any offer coming in your mobile phone, right? Now try to understand why this offer. Go deep into that. What they could have done. What are the alternatives? What can be the impact of this? So when you start your thought process that way, you will start seeing the results in some days. It cannot happen magically today or tomorrow. Say you read in newspaper about, a company taking over another company. So you try to go deep into it. Why? What is the benefit? What is its nature of business? What is acquiring company's nature of business? What is acquired company's nature of business? Why it happened? What can be the benefit? What can be their long-term plan? So maybe that you will get one point. Next step, when you will see anything else, you will get another point. So this way your mind starts giving you suggestions, and you can only give suggestion in this kind of questions only when you have a bank of suggestions, right? If you don't have any bank of suggestion, then how will you provide? Suggestion cannot be auto-generated as and when required. You need to have a bank. So when we are studying this case study, we are creating this kind of bank. So never, dishearten yourself that, oh, how will I study this? I don't remember. What is the pattern now? How will I manage? I don't understand. No. Don't think like that. You have to think, okay, is this also the expectation? Okay, they are also teaching us this. Okay, I will create my bank. And in exam, you never know which suggestion will be used in which kind of question, because the question in exam is very, very uncertain. So which 2-3 questions they will merge to make a single question in exam. So which of your suggestion bank will actually suggest you to which answer, you never know. All right. So these are some banks item that we are creating, and you should keep creating your own bank. Like when I was talking with you in this discussion before actually reading the answer, some I knew because I have done this question before, but I was giving you some points by my own also. So I always try, whenever I read a new question, case study question, I first attempt it all myself and see whether my suggestion bank is appropriate or not, whether it is able to suggest in the context of this case study or not. So when you start doing this, you will get that skill. And for exam, the challenge is again that present of mind, that presence of mind in that present. So in exam, again the challenge is we are already so nervous. So whatever we know, we start forgetting, right? In exam, what happens? Whatever you remember in general, because of the pressure, because of the nervousness, we tend to forget everything. We start forgetting. So if you are not having presence of mind in the paper, how will you be able to suggest promptly there? So what's most important now is your presence of mind. Presence of mind is where? In the present. Are you in present? Are you in the situation? Are you developing the habit of analyzing any kind of scenario that is coming in front of you? Okay. So this is just basically resolvable by having a curiosity as to why things are happening, what can be the impact. So if you start doing this, you will see the change. If you see any kind of ad in your Facebook, try to understand what is this ad about, why they are sending this kind of communication, what they might be doing. Let me check out and find out something about them, so that I understand, okay, what they are doing and what is the consequence, what as a customer I am feeling, what as an owner he might be thinking. So if you have this suggestion bank, it helps. So keeping it short, it will take time, okay, and just keep reading more and more. And just reading is not enough. You need to develop habit of writing, as I said in the beginning of this question, because reading is one side game, remembering is another side of game, and writing is the third side of game. Talking is easy, understanding is easy, but writing is another side of the game. So you should now, since you have studied this question, what you should do after this class, you should write the answer by your own in your exercise copy and see how far you have been able to still match without seeing the answer from here. You try to write by yourself just by collecting these points that I have given you. Okay.